Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome back to Telephone Tales. I am back again solo, and today we're going to talk about some Irish shenanigans because it's that time of the year. It's March, it's almost St. Patrick's Day, and it's another holiday. I've been out for a little bit because I had a really bad cold and talking was basically impossible. And I'm still recovering a little bit from that, so if I start to sound a little strange, I apologize. But just stick with it. Kind of mute or plug your ears or whatever for just a second, and things will get better, I promise. So let's just dive right into this because I have a lot of information for you. I think we're going to start with some classic Irish superstitions because they're kind of known for that, and it's always very interesting to kind of look into that kind of stuff. Even though I think that Ireland has kind of moved away from being overly superstitious and into a lot of the strange and unusual stuff, but it's still fun to look back at and kind of see where the mindset is with some of this stuff. So yeah, I don't know if any of you are superstitious, but if you are, maybe this will help you out. If anyone doesn't know what a magpie is, it's basically a bird. Well, not basically, it is a bird, and it's usually a black and white bird. And a little fun fact about magpies is they are considered one of the most intelligent animals in the world. Not just one of the most intelligent birds, but one of the most intelligent animals in the world, which I didn't know this before kind of researching it a little bit, but maybe that's where some of the superstition comes from, is that you kind of have to, be nice to them or something bad will happen. But anyway, everyone in Ireland kind of knows this one, but they recommend that if you're a tourist and you find yourself wandering around Ireland, you'll notice that people will start just waving at things, which seems like they're waving at nothing, but they're actually waving at these birds because they say that, if you're not nice to the birds, something bad might happen. So they actually came up with a rhyme that goes along with it. So it says 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for a girl, and 4 for a boy, 5 for silver, 6 for gold, 7 for a secret, never to be told. So I guess the more birds you see, the better your luck will be, but the less you see, the worse your luck will be. But a lot of people take this very seriously, and it's terrible luck, they say, to see a lone magpie. And some people will say that it's a good idea to wave to them or be nice to them. And so you'll see people do a salute or even utter the words, "Hello, Mr. Magpie." They say that it's good if you ask them how their wife and family is, which I kind of feel would be a bad thing to ask because if they're all alone, maybe their wife and child died. So that would kind of put a downer on it. But apparently the nicer you are to these magpies, the better your luck. So basically these birds are the purveyors of luck in its various forms. So magpies, above all other creatures in Ireland, must be treated with the highest level of respect and decorum. And depending on the number of magpies present, one may be granted either good luck or bad luck. It's best to keep the magpies happy over in Ireland or here. I don't even know if they are in the United States. That's something I should have looked at, but I'll do a quick Google search and let you know. Okay, so there are different kinds of magpies, but the black-billed magpie is also called the American magpie, and this bird is predominantly found in North America. So, they're from Colorado to Alaska, they're all the way in California, all the way down to Nevada and Arizona, New Mexico, Kansas, Nebraska. I mean, they're all over Northern America. So I guess they originated there, they live there. But then there's also the Eurasian magpie, also known as the common magpie, and that's the one that's in Ireland and among lots of other European countries. So they're different, but they're the same because they look very similar, and they're both descendants from the crow, which makes sense because I've always known that crows are among the most intelligent birds. So, yeah, that makes sense. But, anyways, it's very important to be nice to them. So, next time you see a magpie or a crow, I believe, you should just, good vibes around. Okay, the next one is pretty wild. We're moving on to bird poo. It's kind of a nice transition, but you know, you're going about your day, you see two magpies, jackpot. Remember, two magpies equals joy, right? Got it. When one of these all knowing, all seeing magpies poos on you, what then? What do you think? You think you didn't perform the dance right, your salute was off, you thought you did everything right, yet still, one of them dares to make you his toilet. What horrible luck, you think. But you see, that's where you're wrong. Bird poo is actually good luck. You've been blessed by this heavenly bird and your luck is turning for good. That's what this says. I'm reading that word for word. I didn't come up with that. It's from IrelandWays.com. And that's pretty funny. I actually have a story about getting pooed on by a bird. Has anyone else been pooed on by a bird? I think it's pretty common, but I mean, everyone I talk to, it's never happened to them. But for me, I was on a field trip. I was in middle school, so probably around 7th grade. And, I don't know, like 13, 14 age, I guess. And we went to some dock somewhere. It was like a port. I don't even exactly remember where it was, but we were all standing around on this dock and looking at the boats and the water and everything. And out of nowhere, a big seagull poops like on my head, completely flat, smack dab right on the top, and it started dripping down my face, dripping down the rest of my hair. It was so mortifying and so disgusting. And at that point, you just don't know what to do because there's nothing. Like, we were on a field trip. We weren't near any bathrooms. I remember there wasn't any buildings or anything around. It was just kids and water and a dock and one teacher. And I'm one of those kids that I still am very introverted, and I'm not very, it wasn't shy necessarily, but I was kind of like, I don't know how to react right now. I don't know. Should I go tell somebody? Should I try to deal with this myself? Should I try not to draw attention? But it was kind of hard not to, so I was trying to keep it to myself, but I mean, there's only so far you could go. So I just started walking off the dock, and then of course everybody notices me moving and everybody looks, and it was just a super embarrassing moment for me. But yeah, it'll always stick in my head. But apparently that means good luck. Although it doesn't say that it has to be a magpie. It just says bird poo. It says if you've been pooped on by a bird, then that's good luck. So I don't know if I felt good luck after that. I'm trying to think if anything really amazing happened, but I don't think so. So moving on. If you have an itchy nose, which I have had so much of this week with having a cold, and the pollen here is insane. So, yeah, it's just been nuts, and my nose has been crazy. It's been through a lot, okay? And so in Ireland, though, an itchy nose is a clinical symptom of an impending fight that you might have with somebody close to you. Such a fight can be prevented by simply slapping the person next to you on the wrist. This slap should then be reciprocated, and you can now rest assured that your friendship is safe. So if you start to have an itchy nose, you're just supposed to look to the person next to you, slap them on the wrist, they slap you back, and then you're safe. Otherwise, you're going to have a crazy fight with somebody close to you. I did not do the slapping test, so this could be a really big fight brewing because I've had an itchy nose for so long. I don't think I've had an argument or fight with anybody the past week, but I mean, nothing that sticks in my mind. So I think I'm safe. The next one goes along with physical symptoms. So if your ears are burning, that means somebody somewhere is talking to you. I've heard this one before. Yeah, I don't get a lot of ears burning. So what about you? Anybody talking about you somewhere? I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to move on to a different site because this one has a little bit more. And we were kind of running low on the other one. So this one's called Irish Post, this website where I'm getting this from. And this superstition is the cutlery. And it says when people say the Irish have a superstition about everything, they mean literally everything. It seems like back in the day, not a single thing could be sorry. Not a single thing could happen without some wise old person making a prediction about it. And it goes as far as dropping a piece of cutlery. So, according to the myth, if a knife falls on the floor, you will have a gentleman visitor. If a fork falls on the floor, you will have a lady visitor. And if a spoon falls on the floor, you will have a child visitor. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can't imagine that working. But if you're stuck at home, it says, and you're bored on a Friday night or whenever, just start throwing your kitchen utensils around. And if the legend is believed, you will soon have a party going. I don't know that I believe this because I feel like superstitions are spontaneous. They're not something that you can control or gain, reaction to just by doing something. I feel like it has to happen accidentally. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it does say that if you believe the legend and you do it, then it will come true. So maybe there's something to do with that belief that helps out. I don't know. And so here's another thing that confused me a little bit about some of these superstitions is because when I think about Ireland, and I'm no connoisseur of the culture / island, but I feel like it's very windy there. I don't know why. In my mind, I feel like I've heard that a lot, that it gets really windy in Ireland. So one of their superstitions is all around the wind, which I guess kind of makes sense if they have it a lot, they kind of play with it. But I would think that it would just become second nature to them and they wouldn't ever think about the wind really anymore, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, the wind is the second craziest threat that you could have in Ireland. So it says, second to the boogeyman, it's basically the most ominous threat you could ever receive. And if it happens so much, I would think, oh, I'd just be scared all the time. Okay, so it says, who else here has heard as a kid, if you don't stop pulling that face, the wind will change it and you'll be stuck that way? Actually, I have heard that. My mom used to tell me that all the time when I would itch my nose. I'm back to the itching of the nose. But I used to push my nose up. And so she would say, if you keep doing that, your nose is going to get stuck up. So it points upwards. And then I became like terrified that my nose would get stuck up, and I still think about it sometimes when I'm rubbing my nose or something, and I'll always constantly push it down because of that. It's just I know that it wouldn't happen, but anyway, I guess there is some truth to it though if you really think about it, because when you get wrinkles and things, it's because the wrinkles occur in places where your face moves a lot. So over time, sure, I guess it could change. I don't know how that relates to the wind, why the wind would be the one that's changing it. Anyways, so, and here's another one, and again, this could be just ignorance, but I feel like there would be a lot of red-haired people in Ireland, because I feel like that's a common trait. Anyways, there's apparently a bad luck thing around red hair, which seems kind of harsh for people who live there, because that would happen a lot. But it says there's a myriad of myths and superstitions around red-haired women in particular. But basically, if you see a red-haired woman in the morning, that's bad news, and you'll have bad luck all day. And on here, there's a little side note that says it's bad news for anyone who's married to one, because they wake up every morning and see a red-haired woman. Also, if you see a red-haired maiden, which again is a woman, turn your back, because you're not going to accomplish anything that day. Which, and then again, the side note's funny. It says, although if you turn around and go home, yeah, you're not going to accomplish anything that day. Which makes sense. But, anyways, so that's kind of some of the superstitions. There's just a couple, but we have so much more to do, so let's keep going. Well, here's an interesting one. The year 2020 is a leap year, and the leap day in Irish tradition is the only time when a woman is traditionally permitted to break with customs and propose to their partners. So basically that's like become a tradition over there, which isn't a superstition, but it's still interesting. And this is a leap year, so I wonder if anybody actually went through with that tradition. Let me know. Okay, we're moving into Irish mythology, which is kind of super interesting. I feel like it is. I think that the Irish culture and folklore is, but I don't know the word that I'm looking for. It's mysterious and eerie and kind of cozy. That's probably a bad way to describe it, but it just is very, I don't know, like interesting. And it's just such a good place to start with storytelling, and they come up with so many great ideas. But obviously a lot of these things people really believe in, even though they are, kind of myths and legends. But it's so interesting that they have this history of storytelling and how they do that. I wonder where it all started and why they did that, and why it's such a part of their culture, but I love it. So let's get into some of these. So the fairies. Now, I'm going to be reading a lot about Irish things, and I'm going to mispronounce things because I have no idea how they're said. So hopefully I will get it close. But if you really want to research this for yourself and find out the correct way to say things, please go for it. But don't get mad because I have no idea even where to start with this. But it is said that fairies live in Knox. I think that's how you say it, but they're hollow hills in Irish, which are located in the Sidhe. The Sidhe are mounds where megalithic monuments are erected in many places on the island. There are fairies that are there and ruled by a king or queen. So the fairies have a king or queen. Excuse me. One of the most famous legends about fairies is that referring to Lady of Death, a fairy that appears during the night with hair loose and red eyes. According Siri.
I found this on the web for a fairy that appears during the night with hair loose and red eyes. Check it out.
No thanks. Thank you for helping me though. Okay, let's see. Go away. Siri, stop listening to me. Okay, so one of the most famous legends about fairies is referring to the Lady of Death, a fairy that appears during the night with hair loose and red eyes. Accordingly, it is said that she arrives at the homes of a family to mourn for several days the death that will fall on one of its members. Eee. So if you see one, I guess that means someone in your family will die. The next one is the puka, which I have heard of before. It's super scary. So they are one of the most feared mythological beings in Ireland. These are little goblins that usually dress up and go out at night to terrorize people. They always wear a long, wild mane, and their eyes are like a pale yellow color. And depending on the area, the polka can become large. It could be puka. Puka can become large furry orgs, huge eagles, or black goats with twisted horns. In Downland, in particular, they turn into small, deformed goblins that demand a portion of the harvest from the peasants. It's said that the puka is technically a goblin, but it's a shape-shifting goblin, and it can take various forms, and it can even be seen as a dog or rabbit, something that is pretty normal for us to see, or even an old man. But in tradition, it's usually seen as a dark, sleek horse with a long, wild, flowing mane and luminous, which I guess is like the sulfuric, golden eyes. Whew. An important thing to always remember about a puka is that they have the power of human speech, and when inclined to make great sport of those that they talk to, as they like to embellish the truth. In Ireland, the puka seem to be the most feared fairy, or fairy, possibly because it appears only at night and enjoys creating havoc and mischief. We feel this doing the puka an injustice because there's no recorded incidences of puka actually causing human any harm. Oh, interesting. All right, well, did you know that for the Irish, butterflies are a message of the fairies, a sign of metamorphosis of the spirits waiting to be reborn? Likewise, they represent journeys between worlds in search of knowledge. That's fascinating. That would be so cool, actually, if that were real. Depending on the color of the butterflies, they acquire a different meaning. So being able to predict bad or good events. So the browns and blacks announce little trips or inconveniences and enemies in sight, while the whites produce positive news and stability. According to this myth, if you see a yellow butterfly, then you have found yourself face to face with success. I see a lot of yellow butterflies. I don't really necessarily feel successful, but maybe I'm looking at it all wrong. Now, if you find it blue, it will be like having a good luck charm. If this happens to you, perhaps life is giving you signs that you will get a good profit. Oh, it would not be bad to visit the best online casino offers, I guess that's a plug, to see which casino is closest to you and try a little fortune. I'm trying to think the last time I saw a blue butterfly. Maybe I can manifest one. Then there's the myth of the mermaids. I love the myth of the mermaids because I honestly believe that mermaids are real. I mean, I'm not crazy. I say that with hesitation because maybe I am, but I feel like there's so much evidence to prove that they existed at least at some point. Anyway, I digress. Although we always refer to them as female, the truth is that also exist male sirens. They differ from them in that they are uglier, have a pig face, and sharp teeth. Oh, kind of mean to those manly mermaids. In Ireland, it is said that mermaids have a unique jewel, and if a man manages to keep the treasure, the mermaid will be forced to marry him. This will give the man a beautiful wife and good wealth, but if she recovers it, she will leave husband and children to return to the sea. Here's the classic, the leprechauns. So leprechauns are beings that are one of the liveliest symbols of Ireland, and they are a race before the arrival of the Celts. Okay, so they existed before that. Its name derives from the Gaelic expression Leith Burgon. We'll go with that, which literally means shoemaker. They can be kind of fierce. They can be kind or fierce. I just love saying kindness. So they are small creatures that wear a special hat on their reddish hair, and they have They have blushes on their faces and wear green suits like any pixie. They are free, wild, untamable, and can be helpful or greedy according to the circumstances. Sounds like, I was going to say a cat, but I guess all animals kind of do that. According to the legend, if you find one of them and you stare at him, the leprechaun will be trapped, and you will be able to get the treasures that he hides in his big cauldrons. But if you look away for even a single second, he will disappear. If you think you have seen one and you lost it, do not worry. You can get a pot of gold by visiting the casinos. What? I don't know what that means. I'm guessing that is a plug. This is on a website, so... leprechauns. I think everyone knows what a leprechaun is and kind of the whole lore behind that. So we have another one. Let's see let's find, we got the shamrock, which is right on line with, our St. Patrick's Day stuff. So the curious name in Ireland named the three-leaf clover, which became a national symbol based on the historical religious fact. It happened at the time when St. Patrick preached before the Celts, trying to explain what the Holy Trinity is. Finding himself overwhelmed because the Celts could not understand that trilogy, St. Patrick saw before him a clover. He showed the clover to the audience and explained that, as from a stem from the three different leaves, so Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit are one, and the Celts understood the trilogy. That's interesting. Ooh, the Dullahan. That sounds scary. Through the Irish countryside rode sinister creatures with their heads in their lap and at high speeds. Oh, this is kind of like the Headless Horseman, I guess, in our tradition. They were called the Dullahan, and it is said that they lived in the countries of Down and Sligo. The legend has it that when a Dullahan suddenly stopped, someone from the environment died. Eesh. Part of the legend gave rise to the character of Sleepy Hollow, played by Johnny Depp. After these stories, let yourself be carried away by your childhood curiosity, visit Ireland, and do not get stuck in the metropolis. Follow the many legends and myths, and probably you can return home loaded with a large cauldron full of gold. I hope so. Wish you guys luck. Okay, now that we've talked about all of the myths and legends, we're going to move on to the 5 most terrifying ghost stories in Ireland. The 5 most terrifying ghost stories in Ireland. I got all of these from IrelandBeforeYouDie.com, which, we'll go with it. I just want to take a second to say that a lot of the things I'm saying in this, they're not necessarily quote unquote true stories, but they are based on true legends and myths, not true legends and myths, true history of legends and myths. And there are some true stories at the very end. That's the last thing we're going to talk about, that, were true things that happened. But a lot of these are stories and folklore and myths and, superstitions, all based on just Ireland's history. Just so you know that what I'm saying is not, what I'm saying. We'll move on. Okay, so the first most terrifying ghost stories in Ireland is the haunted cottage of Cúnain Co. Fermahan. I'm going to get that terribly wrong, and I apologize. But in that area of Cúnain, Tyrone Boulder sits an isolated, abandoned cottage. In 1911, this was the home of the Murphy family, who were apparently victims of the poltergeist activity. Miss Murphy was a widow who, along with her children, began to hear mysterious noises at night. Knocks on the door, footsteps in the empty loft, and unexplained creaks and groans. I hear that all the time. Like all the time at this house and like any house you're in that's relatively old. But anyways, then another strange occurrence began, such as plates traveling across tables seemingly on their own and bedcloths moving around in empty beds. Okay, can't say that I've seen that. Soon, more extreme and frequent paranormal activity began to occur, with pots and pans thrown violently against the walls and furniture elevated from the ground. A coldness permeated the cottage as mysterious shapes appeared and disappeared through the walls. The house became the talk of the area and neighbors. Local clergymen and local MP visited and became shocked witnesses to the strange events. Oh, so there's more than one witness. So it's not like she was thinking, oh, okay, the knocks on the door and the footsteps aren't getting any attention. Let's boost it up and say some bedcloths are moving, some plates are moving, but now moved up, pots and pans thrown, coldness. But no, she wasn't the only one. There's lots of other people in the area that saw it. So, a Catholic priest from a nearby Maguire's Bridge performed 2 exorcisms to absolutely no avail. The haunting continued along with the family's terror. Soon, rumors circulated that the family had somehow brought the demonic activity on themselves. With no local support and now a fear in their lives, the Murphys immigrated to America in 1913. Do you think they brought it with them? I don't know. But the story did not end there, as apparently the poltergeist followed them. It did! It followed them! Oh no, we're all doomed. Their cottage in Cúnain, now ruined, was never lived in again, and visitors say it retains an oppressive atmosphere. And that's it. That's the end. It doesn't say. It doesn't say what happened when they came to America. Uh-oh. Okay, next one. The Haunted Mansion in Sligo. I hope that's said right. On the Colera Peninsula in Sligo, there's no comma, William Phibbs built a stately mansion known variously as Seafield or Lisheen House. It overlooked the sea, and with over 20 rooms, it stood out as an opulent symbol built at the height of the Great Famine by a man who was as cruel and unsympathetic landlord as any. By the 20th century, his descendant, Owen Phibbs, is said to have housed a collection of Egyptian artifacts, including mummies. Oh my gosh. There's so much folklore or, superstition or whatever around Egyptian artifacts. I was just reading about it the other day, but it doesn't pertain to this episode, so moving on. At this house, he had stimulated the activity of a violent poltergeist. Again, according to some servants, the house often shook and objects would smash into the walls at random. A ghostly horse-drawn coach was said to rumble up an avenue at night only to disappear at the entrance door. Several exorcisms were apparently conducted at the house, yet the activity did not cease. It doesn't seem like exorcisms work. I wonder why. The Phibbs family strongly denied the haunting. Oh gosh, I just saw a picture that scared me. Ugh. Anyways, the Phibbs family strongly denied the haunting as it became difficult to retain servants. But no one knows what prompted them to leave abruptly in 1938, never to return. I wonder if they came to America too. Their agents organized for all the house contents, even the roof, to be sold off. It is now a ruin, covered with wild Atlantic ivy, visited occasionally by those interested in its paranormal history. I might go there one day. No, I take it back. It looks pretty daunting. Number 3. We're going backwards. So that was, we did 5, 4, now we're on 3. A vampire in Derry. In Derry, a distinct known, I said that wrong. In Derry, a district known as Slotdavarty is a grassy mound known as O'Cathain's Dolmen. O'Catan. I think it's Catan. O'Catan's Dolmen, marked by a single thorn tree. It is said that the vampire is contained within it. In 5th century Derry, a chieftain known as Abertoch was notorious for its vindictiveness and cruelty towards its own tribe. He had a strange, deformed appearance, and rumors abounded that he was an evil wizard. Well, people can be kind of cruel. But anyways, when he died, his relieved people, I guess they were relieved that he died, had him buried in a manner befitting a man of his rank. However, the day after his burial, his corpse, seemingly alive, reappeared in the village, demanding a bowl of fresh human blood, or else terrible retribution. God, that would be terrifying. His terrified former subjects returned to another local chieftain, Catan, and asked that he kill Abertoch. Catan killed him 3 times, and after each murder, Abertoch's gruesome corpse came creeping back to the village in search of blood. Finally, Catan consulted a holy Christian hermit for guidance. Why is he a hermit? He directed that Abertoch be killed using a wooden sword made of yew. He then had to be buried head downwards, weighted with heavy stone, and finally thorn bushes should be planted tightly in a circle around the burial site. On following these instructions, Catan at last confined Abertoch to his grave. To this day, the locals there avoid the mountain, especially after dark. Of course, I would. Although, if he's buried correctly, he'll never come out. So, that's really creepy. The Faceless Lady of Beverley Castle, Cork. This is number 2. There's only one left after this. Beverley Castle sits predominantly on the shore of Great Island in Cork Harbour. It is said that in the 17th century, Margaret Hodnett lived there. Mirrors were a status symbol with the wealthy at the time, and Margaret was known for her love of these to remind her of her own renowned beauty. Nice, she's vain. She had an on-off relationship with a local lord called Clon Rockdenby, who asked her for her hand in marriage many times but was refused. Eventually, Rockdenby decided that the humiliation was enough, and he raised a small army to go to the castle and take her by force. Gosh, dude, take a hint. No means no. He thought the Hodnetts used to a luxurious life would not withstand a siege. However, they surprised him by holding out for a full year before surrendering. A full year? It's like war for a year? Just for marriage? I don't know. I mean, that would be intense. Could you imagine having somebody so into you that they would wage a war with you and your family for a year just to have your hand in marriage? However, they surprised him by holding out for a full year before surrendering. Go, girl! When he entered the castle, Rockdenby was shocked to see the state of Margaret. Skeletal and starved. A shadow of her former self, her beauty was gone. Out of rage, Rockdenby smashed her favorite mirror to pieces. As he did so, one of the Hodnetts killed him with a sword. After these events, Margaret descended into her insanity. She was said to have sought out mirrors constantly to check if her beauty had ever returned. It never did. She died at an old age in the castle. Her troubled ghost appears as a lady in white, sometimes with a veiled face and sometimes with no face at all. Those who have seen her say she looks at a spot on the wall and then rubs it as if looking at her reflection. Apparently, one stone on the castle's wall has been rubbed smooth over the years, perhaps in the spot where her mirror used to hang. Beverly has largely been unoccupied since the 19th century, but it is currently being renovated. Ooh, that is a bizarre story. Think of it what you will. The very last and the very first and the very most haunting ghost story in Ireland, apparently, is the murdered jester of Malahide Castle in Dublin. Dublin's the place to be for a mystery. King Henry II of England had Malahide Castle built in the 1100s, and the place boasts many hauntings. In its early days, opulent medieval feasts were held there, and such events would not be complete without minstrels and jesters providing entertainment. One of the jesters, named Puck, of course his name is Puck, is thought to haunt the castle. It is said that he saw a lady prisoner at a feast and fell in love with her. A lot of these hauntings have to do with love. Perhaps while trying to help her escape, he was apparently stabbed to death outside the castle and in his dying breath vowed to haunt the place forever. There have been many sightings of him, and many visitors say they have seen him in photographs and his spectral features appearing in the thick ivy that grows on the walls. Places such as Malahide Castle seem to be magnets for strange and paranormal activity, as many other supernatural occurrences have been noted in its long history. In more recent years, a portrait of a lady dressed in white had hung in the great hall of the castle. At night, it is said her ghostly figure would walk out of the painting and wander through the halls. Might she have also been seeking Puck out to rescue her from her prison? Ooh. I kind of feel like the Beverly Castle one was a little scarier than this one, but I feel like this one is more notorious because Malahide Castle seems to have a lot of, crazy things going on there. So, okay. What do you think? Do you have an extra story, like a ghost story or anything that you want to share that happened to you, or especially if it happened in Ireland? Go over to the Instagram account and let me know. Send me a DM or post it on a comment so that we can all read it. Maybe I'll read it on here on the next episode. We'll find out. Okay, so moving on, we have just 2 more segments. This segment is about the true Irish tales you'll ever read. Sorry, I forgot the oddest part. These are some of the oddest true Irish tales you'll ever read. Well, in your case, you'll ever listen to, because I'm going to read them to you. Get ready. This is coming from Foster's Historical Irish Oddities, which is a compilation of extraordinary but true tales by Alan Foster. I'm getting these from the journal.ie, which is an online publication, I guess. And so here, these are just kind of excerpts from that, I believe. And we're going to get started with the man who packed himself into a trunk. Interesting. So let's do it. On the morning of October 1st, 1941, a porter working on the North Wall docks in Dublin unpinned a large case that had been accidentally turned upside down the night before when it was being unloaded from the ship. The ship's name was Slave Dawn, and it came from Liverpool. The porter thought it was his imagination when he heard tapping coming from inside the crate. He listened carefully, and it started again. He tapped the case and received an answering tap from inside. He called the other porters to help him, and the case was quickly opened. What do you think was inside? The men were amazed to find a hysterical, semi-conscious Frenchman upside down and encased in a large plaster cast. The frantic man was brought to Jervis Street Hospital, where he identified himself as 40-year-old Maurice Carcassus de la Bunque, which I think is correct, but probably not. An artist with an address in London, M.D. Leboux's paintings were due to go on show in Dublin, but he was unable to obtain the necessary visa, so he arranged to ship himself inside the crate to a Dublin art gallery on Molesworth Street. The lengths people will go. The Frenchman planned his trip carefully and had a plaster cast made which fitted his entire body, preventing him from being buffeted too severely in the packing case, which I think just means not being, pushed around and battered. But he spent 4 days en route from London to Dublin, and everything had gone to plan until a careless dock worker unloaded the packing case and left it upside down with his occupant standing on his head and unable to do anything about it. That is bizarre. Okay, so the next one is the shower of fish. So on the day of, it was a fine day, the sky was clear, and the wind blew steadily. At about 10 a.m. on the 23rd of April, 1900, there was a shower of small fish in the bog close to the Coast Guard station in Kilgardine, County Clare, about 300 yards from the sea. Several men were working on the bog at the time and reported an unusual occurrence to the officer in charge of the station. He investigated and found about 150 fish had fallen from the sky, and they were young sand eels, which frequent shallow water near the coast at that time of year. The bog was west of the Shannon, and the direction of the wind was north-northwest, force 2. That would be really bizarre, especially if they're not the kind of fish that jump. And maybe they were, and they just jumped really high, and maybe they're scared by something. I don't know, but that would be kind of weird if you're standing there and all of a sudden fish start falling on you. But similarly, there were colored hailstones that fell out of the sky. Colored hailstones have sometimes fallen from the sky. R.A. Mullen, a solicitor from Newry, was driving a gig near Castlewellan County, County Down. Man, I'm butchering that. Sorry. Castlewellan County Down on May 7th, 1885. This is the shortest one of all the stories, and I'm repeating myself 100 times because I cannot say it correctly. Does that make any sense to you? I'm going to start over. R.A. Mullen, a solicitor from Newry, was driving a gig near Castlewellan County Down on 7th of May, 1885, when he was caught in the middle of a hailstorm/shower. Some of the hailstones were red. The color pervaded the substance of the stones, and on melting, it stained Mullen's fingers. Oh, so the color, I guess when he picked them up, they melted and it stained Mullen's fingers red. Don't know why that was so hard to get out, but it was. Escape of a thief. This picture has a very confused thief. So let's see what the thief did. The daring ingenuity of an Irish thief who fell foul of the Greenock police made news on January 1880. When caught, the man feigned a comatose state. His ruse did not fool the Greenock police surgeon, and a state of consciousness was quickly induced. I mean, you can't fake that for too long. The thief was transported to the town where, it alleged, he had committed a robbery and jailed there to await trial. He soon escaped the jail and fled. A few days later, he was caught red-handed and taken into custody, but not before some hard blows had been exchanged between him and the constables. Bleeding from the mouth as a result of the whack from the baton, the Irishman was brought before a police surgeon who did not know his tricks. The cunning thief pretended to be dying, and his acting was so convincing that the surgeon really believed that the thief had died in front of him. After laying the dead man, the quote-unquote dead man, on the mortuary, minus the boots, the surgeon hurried off to report the fatality to the police. The mortuary was attached to the police station, and the surgeon left the door ajar. After the surgeon made his report to the ranking officer, the policemen involved in the assaults were detained because I guess they killed him, so they had to be questioned, so they were detained. And when this officer and the surgeon returned to the mortuary to examine the corpse, it was gone. Of course it was gone. The Irishman made another escape. Sneaky little thief. Okay. A shock to the system. In February 1773, let me just put a side note. I love that these are so old, that these are like way before, our time. I just love old stories from different generations because it's kind of like time traveling in a way. You kind of get like a sense of the time, and I just love it. So, anyways, that's just me. In February 1773, 14-year-old Anne Mulligan, of course it's Mulligan, that's such an Irish name. Why did I say it wrong? Of Roxbury, went to visit a neighbor's house one evening and returned home that night having completely lost her voice, which is what I feel like I'm doing right now. My voice is very hoarse right now, and I apologize. Anyway, it's not about me. She remained that way until May 1777, when friends brought her to Dr. Connell of Cavan. Dr. Connell was known as the Mad Doctor on account of his unusual methods, and his treatment of Anne showed how unorthodox he was. The doctor heard her story and examined the girl, and then brought her into his dining room and locked the door. Dun, dun, dun. He sat her on one end of the table and then sat opposite. He began by distorting his figures in a shocking manner, intending to frighten the girl. After some time, he jumped up, grabbed a dagger that was hanging over the mantelpiece, and ran at Anne, swearing that he was going to kill her. She dropped to her knees, begging him to spare her life, and then fainted. On coming to, she completely regained her speech and never lost it again. I mean, that's one way to go. I will say that, have you ever heard of like phobias being changed and like treated, or like people's different fears that people have, or, by basically super charging them with their greatest fear, and then once they face that fear, they no longer have a fear of it. It's kind of like if you're afraid of spiders, then somebody puts you in a box with a bunch of spiders, and it's so terrifying and probably the worst case scenario. But then they claim that by doing that, you'll be rid of all your fear. And I don't know that I believe this, because I have certain fears of things that annoy me or that bother me, and this could just be a boy thing, but my boyfriend has it in his mind that the more he does it, the less I'll be annoyed by it, or the less that it'll cause me anxiety or fear. And I feel like that's the complete opposite, because I am not cured, fools. I am not okay. It sounds like a cry for help. But no, I mean, like, I just don't always think that's the best form of treatment. But I can see how it would work in some cases, like it obviously worked here. So yeah, let me know what your fears are, or anything that would just terrify you to ever have actually happen. Well, maybe not, it'll be anonymous, because we don't want anybody that trying to desensitize you with some crazy unorthodox method. My throat is so dry right now, so I'm going to drink some water. Okay, we're back in business. I feel much better now. This is our last and final segment, the do's and don'ts of Ireland. So if you're ever traveling to Ireland, pay attention, because this will help you out. The first thing on this list of things that tourists should never do in Ireland. So there's just common things that the Irish enjoy or like or even dislike. And these are some rules. Faking accents. I mean, I think we all kind of have done this at some point in our life, where we try to have an accent like someone else. But when you're in the actual country, especially Ireland, faking accents can sometimes be considered as rude, basically. They don't like it, and they know you're going to butcher it, so just don't even try. And also, on that note, another part is don't butcher the Irish language, which obviously I did through this entire podcast, because I don't necessarily know how to pronounce things or say things in the way that the Irish do. But, it is what it is. It's hard to know how to say the exact word the same way as, pronounce it the same way when you don't speak it on a regular daily basis, but we try. But they really dislike that, apparently. They don't like the fact that people assume that when you're in Ireland, you should speak Irish. And they say that English is their first language. And even though it doesn't sound the same as the rest of the world, you should not go in deciding to try and sound like you're from Ireland and speak the way they speak. They would actually prefer it if you don't try, because they know that if you do try, you'll just butcher it, and they'd rather you just speak like you normally speak, and they'll work around it. One thing that was interesting to me is they find it rude for you to not buy a round for everybody in the establishment. So when drinking in Ireland, it's absolutely normal for everyone to buy at least one round of drinks for everyone. How it goes is one person from the group goes to the bar to buy drinks for everyone. Then when that round is almost done, the next person gets up, and then the next, and so on and so forth, until everyone has bought something, a round for everyone. So if you want to fit in, be sure to join in, and just remember that if you don't, you'll be considered rude. But, like if someone's going to buy a round for you, it's only fair that you buy a round for them. But I was thinking that it was for the entire establishment, but I'm thinking that maybe after reading this, it's more just within the group that you're with. So that makes it a little bit more financially feasible. Okay, so what else? The next one is searching for and mentioning leprechauns. Although leprechauns are truly Irish fairies whose origins come from early folklore, a symbol of good luck, in these modern times they have been made into gimmicks rather than remaining true to their actual mythological roots, which can be very offensive to most locals. Which hopefully I didn't do in this podcast. I think I stayed true to the original mythological beings of leprechauns, so I hope so. Don't misunderstand the use of the word sorry. The word sorry is used in almost every single country as a word to apologize. And in Ireland, it's no different. But the Irish also use the word sorry in the same way that someone would say, excuse me, to call a person's attention. So if you happen to hear someone say sorry, don't misunderstand the reason why they're saying it in the first place. I do that sometimes where if I don't hear somebody or I don't understand them, I'll say, sorry, or if I hear something appalling, I'll say, I'm sorry. So I think that's kind of traveled on to become a common thing. Oh gosh. Don't say St. Patty's Day. I actually don't usually say that. I usually say the whole thing, St. Patrick's Day, but let's see why it's so offensive. So St. Patrick's Day in Ireland is a national festival day which celebrates their patron saint, St. Patrick. Supposedly, it was St. Patrick that brought Christianity to Ireland, so he is deeply loved and placed in high regard, very high regard. There is nothing that bugs the Irish more than calling it St. Paddy's Day, since the actual diminutive form of Patrick is Paddy with two D's, not Patty with two T's. So if you do decide to shorten the term, be sure you say St. Paddy's Day, especially if you're a tourist in Ireland. It's kind of the same thing with the Christmas, like when people say Xmas. A lot of people do get offended by that. So they say the next thing, don't complain about the weather. Although most will say that the weather in Ireland doesn't go to the extreme, it still tends to be very unpredictable. That's kind of how Florida is. That's where I live. Florida is so unpredictable. Anyway, but in normal, of course I make it about me. It normally sits at a cool 50 degrees Fahrenheit, but it is also known to have sudden showers, making it very wet and very cold in an instant. 50 is cold. I don't know, very cold. It's cold to me. Although the locals are allowed to complain about the weather, outsiders should not. The Irish are proud folk, so while they can bemoan things they find annoying, tourists cannot. Please don't get bothered by all the swearing in Ireland. Apparently there's a lot of that going around, and the locals just say that's how they normally speak, so don't get offended. No politics, please. I guess they're very sensitive to politics. And I think that's pretty common everywhere, so I'm going to move on. Don't spend time only in pubs. Get outside and enjoy the rest of Ireland. Although most visitors spend most of their time eating and drinking in many of the local pubs, they really shouldn't spend their time in bars only. Ireland is known for their dairy and meat products, and finding top-end restaurants to try out will surely be worth your while. There are loads and loads of things to choose from, so be sure to search up at least one near your vicinity and book it in advance. We're certain you won't regret it. That's probably true. I mean, it's good to try out food, but I bet they have beautiful landscape too. That's what I would want to do. Get outside and see the sights. It says don't debate with taxi drivers. So just sit back and relax and listen to what they have to say and nod your head. It'll save you the trouble of having to argue and possibly lose no matter how knowledgeable you are on the subject. Because they do not back down. It is hard to have an argument with an Irishman or a woman. And they're very opinionated. Can be very opinionated and proud, I think, is how someone mentioned it once. It's hard to lose an argument. What's the next one? Oh yeah, don't forget to see other sites. We touched on that one. Do not decide to drive. Firstly, the Irish drive on the left side of the road, something most Americans are not familiar with. Secondly, most of the Irish roads in the countryside are not only exceedingly narrow, but getting around can be incredibly confusing as well. Plus, asking for directions will get seriously confusing no matter where you are, and you will get nowhere. So you might as well just hire a tour guide and sit back, relax, and enjoy the scenery. I'm all for that. Whenever I'm in a new area, it's very challenging to drive everywhere and also enjoy where you are. So I feel like hiring somebody or taking a Uber or a public transportation around if you can, as long as you're not driving hours and hours, because otherwise that could get pretty costly. But, it says never say you're 100% Irish. Even if your roots are Irish, if you weren't born and raised in Ireland, never say that you're 100% Irish. Not only will you be openly laughed at, it might help to know that most of the locals themselves don't even say that they're 100% Irish. So how can you? Do not order an Irish car bomb while you're there. An Irish car bomb is the name of a popular drink that uses Bailey's Irish cream, Jameson Irish whiskey, and Guinness stout beer. But while this is something you can order in America, don't attempt to even say the name in an Irish pub. The problem with the drink is that it refers to car bombs that actually happened during the Troubles, quote unquote the Troubles, in Northern Ireland. So it's very offensive. That's probably a good tip, because I feel like a lot of people might actually do that. So good to know. Don't just stay in Dublin. There's lots of other cities to see. Don't say top of the morning to you. They hate that. Don't bring out a British flag. Like if you have a British umbrella, like a umbrella with the British flag on it, or something with a British flag on it, apparently nobody likes that. So keep it hidden. Don't forget to wave back. Be friendly. You know the movies that show the friendly old man waving at you as they stand on the side of those incredibly narrow country roads in Ireland? These type of men actually exist, and if you see one, you should definitely wave back. This also goes to other motorists that you pass down the road as well. While it doesn't have to be a huge wave, a simple hand raise or even a figure wave is enough to acknowledge their presence. I mean, who wouldn't do that? Who wouldn't wave back and acknowledge that they're waving at them? I mean, I feel like that's just common courtesy. Who wouldn't do that? Maybe that's just me. Do not go to the Blarney Stone. The Blarney Stone, what's this? One of the most popular tourist destinations in Ireland is the Blarney Stone. All for a chance to kiss limestone and receive the gift of gab. I don't know. Apparently, many think that it is also such a tourist trap, and if you do make it all the way there, you can't actually kiss the stone anyways, so it's a waste of time. Plus, you have to pay at least $13 to stand in line for more than an hour just to touch the stone, making it totally not worth it. Oh, that's a good tip. Don't do it. Do not talk religion. Again, religion and politics, that's touchy. Don't expect that everyone drinks Guinness. I mean, obviously. Do not joke about potatoes. This may sound very strange to you about joking about potatoes, but no one should ever joke about potatoes when you're visiting Ireland. Back in the day, there was a major potato shortage, causing people to die due to starvation. So, if you don't want to bring back bad memories for people, just don't bring them up. I mean, they must eat potatoes there, so they have to discuss the potatoes and how to cook them and everything. But I guess, touchy subject. Do not expect to drink all night. A lot of pubs don't stay open after 11:30 p.m. on weeknights and 1 a.m. on weekends. Do not be insulted from all the teasing. They're very big teasers. What the Irish call taking the piss is actually what they refer to when they are mocking or teasing you. Visitors shouldn't get insulted when they do this to you, as it means that they are really fond of you. If they don't take the piss with you, then that probably means that they don't actually like you. Good to know. So you want to be bullied while you're there. Let's see. Do not pay for museums. Visiting museums in Ireland is that much better because most of them are usually free of charge. Oh, I see. And it's not just museums that have free entry. Many of their galleries and libraries are open to the public without charging any entry fees as well. If you happen to be traveling on a budget, aside from those hotspots, you can also opt to do a free walking tour to enjoy the numerous sights of the gorgeous country. That's so nice that they offer a lot of free options. Oh, this one's interesting. It says, do not bother to tip. Unlike many other countries around the world, tipping is actually not customary in Ireland. But if you do decide to tip, it is appreciated but not necessary. Some people still tip in hotels and even cabs, but one place where you shouldn't even bother is in a pub. If you want to insist on some form of gratuity, just tell the bartender, have one for yourself, which they will understand as your way of tipping. I still think it would be nice since, they will accept it. But the thing is, you really shouldn't be tipping out of necessity. You should be tipping because you feel grateful for the service, right? So either way, do not forget to have an incredible time. So that's it. You guys, we finished. We got through episode 2. I hope that it was entertaining at least. Maybe you learned something. If you're ever traveling to Ireland, you know what to do and what not to do and what to look out for, and stand in the way of birds. You will get pooped on and you will have good luck and probably a great vacation. So work on that, and I will see you guys in the next one. Hopefully that'll come out a lot faster than this one did now that my throat is finally recovering. So I hope everyone's great. Don't forget to check out the Instagram and hang out with me and chat with me and see what's coming up, and maybe insert some of your own stories I can read. I hope to build something up with that, and then I can share your stories. But everyone have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.